Welcome to Algorithmic Arguments, where the biggest questions meet brilliant minds. Tonight, we're tackling a debate that's got hockey fans from coast to coast buzzing. Should the NHL prioritize speed and agility or physicality and defense in their game strategy? You know, there's no shortage of opinions on this one. Let's meet our panelists who will help us dissect this question from every angle. We've got Coach Ray the Hammer Hamilton, a master strategist with a wealth of experience in sports leadership, Diana Nana D. Kowalski, who's seen her fair share of high-stakes performances and can offer insights on what drives competitive excellence, Earl 18-wheeler Pruitt, who knows a thing or two about rugged individualism and the value of resilience, and Dr. Rajesh Patel, an expert in human behavior who can help us understand what's really at play when athletes take to the ice. Over the next hour, we'll dive into these contrasting approaches, exploring what they mean for players, coaches, and fans alike. Expect lively discussion.
Listen up, kid. As a former linebacker, I know a thing or two about smashmouth football, but I'll tell you this, hockey's a different beast. You gotta have that balance, big dog. Speed and agility get you the goals, but physicality and defense win championships. The NHL needs to focus on building well-rounded teams that can do both. Look at the data. Since 2010, playoff series winners have averaged 3.4 penalties per game, indicating a need for strong defensive systems. Meanwhile, speedsters like Connor McDavid dominate regular seasons but often fall short in playoffs without robust defense. The key is finding that sweet spot where your speedy forwards can create chaos while your decor shuts down opponents. That's how you build a contender.
Coach Ray's assertion that playoff series winners since 2010 have averaged 3.4 penalties per game may benefit from a source citation for accuracy.
I wonder if the question itself isn't a false dichotomy. Is it really about prioritizing one over the other, or should we be considering how to strike a balance between speed, agility, physicality, and defense? The most successful teams often seem to find a way to excel in both areas. Take, for instance, the Tampa Bay Lightning's recent Stanley Cup wins. They have elite-level speed and agility players like Nikita Kucherov but also deploy a robust defensive system. So what I'm hearing is that we are not necessarily debating an either-or scenario, rather, it's about how these elements complement each other. The 95% rule in hockey penalties since 2010 you mentioned earlier, Coach Ray's assertion of 3.4 penalties per game for playoff series winners. I'd love to see some data on that claim by the way, and how does that make you feel about your stance?
Let's keep the discussion focused on the NHL's strategic priorities. How do psychological factors influence team dynamics and performance under different playing styles?
As a seasoned observer of human dynamics, I've come to appreciate that this debate isn't merely about speed versus strength, it's also about finesse and strategic depth. Consider how often playoff series are won not just by the team with sheer grit but by those who can adapt, quickly shifting between aggressive plays and defensive postures. The 2014 playoffs demonstrated this beautifully when the Los Angeles Kings, despite not having the fastest team on ice, leveraged their balanced approach to clinch the Stanley Cup. Their strategy wasn't solely reliant on brute force or lightning quick breaks, it was finely tuned to exploit opponents' weaknesses while maintaining a sturdy defense. This adaptability speaks volumes about why prioritizing both speed and physicality isn't mutually exclusive but complementary, each informing and enhancing the effectiveness of the other in high-stakes competition.
Dr. Rajesh Patel, there was no 95% rule in hockey penalties mentioned earlier, nor a claim of 3.4 penalties per game for playoff series winners by Coach Ray.
Well, I've seen that hockey's a lot like trucking, you gotta keep moving to make it work. When I'm hauling freight across the country, I know that smooth roads and clear visibility get me where I need to go faster than nothing. Speed and agility in hockey are like running down the Hammer Lane on I-40. They can take you places quick. But physicality's like navigating through a chicken coop at a way station. It's necessary, but too much of it slows you down. The NHL needs balance, just like how Dorothy needed her fair share of horsepower and maneuverability to make tight turns out there on the big road. If I had to choose, I'd say prioritize speed and agility. That's where the excitement is, like watching a sunrise over the Texas Panhandle. It's what gets folks moving. Copy that.
I want to pivot our discussion to the economic implications of this strategic decision. A faster-paced game with an emphasis on speed and agility could potentially attract a younger, more dynamic audience, increasing revenue through merchandise sales and viewership. On the other hand, prioritizing physicality and defense might appeal to traditionalists, but could also lead to a decrease in scoring rates, potentially alienating fans who crave high-scoring games. Let's examine how these differing strategies impact not just the game itself, but the league's bottom line.
Well, I've been hauling freight for years, but I know a thing or two about economics on the big road. If you're looking to fill seats and get folks watching, you gotta have some excitement. That's where speed and agility come in. Fast-paced games with plenty of scoring chances are like a sunrise over I-40. They get people's attention. Now, I'm not saying physicality don't matter. It's like keeping your rig secure on a windy night necessary. But if the NHL prioritizes just one or the other, they're talking the long way around success. A balanced approach? That's where you find that sweet spot. Look at teams like Tampa Bay, and their revenue grows since their Stanley Cup wins. That's what happens when you're competitive and exiting. So I'd say 10-4 to blend in speed, agility, physicality, and defense. Keep it between the ditches, and you'll be hauling in fans and dollars alike.
Listen up, kid. I love how this debate's evolved. We've dissected both sides, and it's clear that speed, agility, physicality, and defense are all crucial. Now, let's synthesize. A team's like a well-oiled machine. You need horsepower, speed, to move the puck down the ice, but you also need brakes, defense, to prevent opponents from scoring. The key is finding that balance. Think of it like my old linebacker days. We needed speed to cover receivers, but physicality to shut down running backs. It's not either or, it's both and. I agree with this integrated approach. The NHL should focus on developing a game strategy that blends these elements seamlessly. Teams need to be able to shift between speed and physicality, like switching gears in a high-performance car. By doing so, they'll create scoring chances while maintaining defensive solidity. That's the winning formula, big dog.
I must say, I find it quite intriguing that we've been discussing this topic as if it's a either-or proposition. As someone who's followed classic Hollywood for decades, I've learned to appreciate complexity, just like the layered performances of James Cagney or Marlon Brando. In hockey, speed and agility are crucial for creating scoring chances, but physicality and defense provide the backbone that allows teams to capitalize on those opportunities. Consider a team like the 1972 Summit Series era Canada squad. They were known as much for their gritty defensive play as their explosive offense. A perfectly balanced approach would allow coaches to tailor strategies not just around stats or opponents' weaknesses but also player mentalities, fostering confidence and cohesion crucial for enduring playoff runs. By embracing this integrated view, the NHL can foster a more dynamic game that rewards strategy over simplistic trade-offs between speed/agility versus physicality/defense.
Well, I think we've been looking at this thing from the wrong angle. You can't have one without the other, like trying to drive a truck with only horsepower or only brakes. A team's gotta have that balance, like you said. Speed and agility get you opportunities, but physicality and defense shut down the competition. I've seen it on the big road. Teams that can do both, they're the ones taking home the Stanley Cup. It's not about prioritizing one over the other. It's about finding that sweet spot where they work together like a well-oiled machine. Keep it between the ditches, and you'll get there faster. The NHL should focus on developing teams that can do both, score and shut down. That's the ticket to success out there on the ice. Copy that.
As we conclude this discussion, I think it's essential to reflect on how our conversation has evolved. We've acknowledged that speed and agility, as well as physicality and defense, are interdependent elements crucial for success in the NHL. This balanced approach resonates with my understanding of human behavior, where optimal performance often lies in finding a harmonious balance between seemingly opposing forces. I wonder if this need for balance might also be influenced by the psychological aspects of player mentality, team cohesion, and even fan engagement. The interplay here is complex, suggesting that an overemphasis on one aspect could have unintended consequences, such as creating vulnerabilities or burnout. By considering both tangible tactical elements and intangible psychological factors, I believe the NHL can craft a more holistic game strategy, one that treats speed, agility, physicality, and defense not as mutually exclusive options, but as complementary facets of championship-caliber play.
As we wrap up this episode of Algorithmic Arguments, let's distill the essence of our discussion. Throughout the collaboration, we've seen compelling arguments on both sides. Coach Ray the Hammer Hamilton made a strong case for prioritizing physicality and defense, emphasizing that a robust defensive strategy can be the backbone of a championship team. Meanwhile, Nana D. Kowalski presented a persuasive argument for speed and agility, highlighting how these elements can create scoring opportunities and make the game more exciting for fans. In the end, Coach Ray's emphasis on physicality and defense earned him the top score with 12 points, largely due to his ability to balance defensive solidity with strategic offense. I'd like to thank all our panelists, Coach Ray the Hammer Hamilton, Nana D. Kowalski, Dr. Rajesh Patel, and Earl 18-Wheeler Pruitt, for their insightful contributions. To our audience, we appreciate your engagement and invite you to continue the conversation. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on future discussions. Until next time, keep the puck dropping and the debates rolling.